Hello, this is Dr. E going through environmental policies in review, getting ready for the AP exam. The first one is Clean Air Act. Clean Air Act was drafted in 1963. There have been amendments to it in 1970, 77, 90, and it's a national law as indicated by the word act. Its goal is to control air quality and protect the health of the public. Function, its standards on particulate pollution, ozone, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, carbon monoxide, and lead in the air were put in place. Notice it's the big six: particulate, ozone, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, carbon monoxide, and lead, the big six. The issues were the effects on air pollution and on health. The EPA is responsible for regulation and enforcement. Violators can receive an administrative penalty or be sued. The main goal is to control the air quality, which reduces the chance of acid rain, smog, health issues, and other problems. Notice here that you have a before and an after. The Clean Water Acts, again, it's a national one because of the acts. It was first put together in 1972 and amended in 77 and 87. Its goal is to eliminate toxic substances in water, maintain their chemical and physical quality. Programs that put in wastewater and water quality standards. Under this law, releasing pollutants from a point source into waters is unlawful without a permit. Non-point sources are also controlled to reduce pollution. Standards may vary between bodies of water, for example, water quality and health, depending on where it is. The EPA is responsible for regulation and enforcement, permit checks, and issuing penalties. Violators can be fined a maximum of $11,000 per violation. What you see down with water standards help regulate water for consumption as well as recreation and sport. What you see here was one of the things that pushed it forward. This is a river, I believe in the Midwest, where it caught on fire. The river caught on fire. It was so polluted. Comprehensive Environmental Response Compensation Liability Act. Again, it's a national one, drafted in 1980, amended in 1986 and 1990. Basically, it's to clean up hazardous substances. Functions to eliminate substances that could be hazardous to the public or the environment. EPA is responsible for the enforcement. They can hold parties responsible for site contamination and order the area be cleaned. The Area for Toxic Substance and Disease Registry has authority to clean up substances which pose a threat to health. The violators can be charged with imprisonment or fines. These are known as Superfund or CERCLA for short. The hazard ranking system is used to determine what type of action needs to be taken and how critical importance is. This act was passed in response to waste sites contaminating areas and compromising health. These could be either probably from the agency, the EPA, and they're there to clean it up to make sure that people and organisms do not get sick. The Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species. Convention means it's an international. It's put together by the UN. It drafted in 1975. It's been amended. It's international. Its goal is to make the trade of species illegal and does not threaten their survival chances. Function is the trade of certain species are controlled by the need for transport licenses. For example, wanting to move parts of pandas or others across borders. Species that are endangered or protected in at least one country are held under this policy. Live animals and plants must be shipped with a minimum risk of harm. Each member of this convention has its own national laws for enforcement. The United States, the Endangered Species Act is the primary enforcement. Countries adhere to this policy voluntarily. There are no stated penalties that all parties must answer. Trade includes products of endangered species such as food products, instruments, and medicine. There are currently 178 member countries. Resource Conservation and Recovery Act, controlled by the EPA, drafted in 1976, amended in 1984. It's a national one. It addresses problems caused by the increasing amount of waste. Function is enacted to control waste management by regulations in addition to each state's regulations. National goals were set to reduce resource and energy use, to ensure proper waste disposal, and to conserve health and environmental quality. Regulations are published and enforced by the EPA. Contamination or improper disposal of waste can result in penalties and fines. This act amended the Solid Waste Disposal Act of 1965. The Montreal Protocol was drafted in 1987, and it was amended. Again, it's a protocol, so it's international. It addresses the hole in the ozone. It's a treaty among UN members to reduce chlorofluorocarbons that lead to the destruction of ozone. Chlorofluorocarbons are found in refrigerants. Each country is responsible for controlling its CFCs in order to meet the agreement of the treaty. There are no official penalties. By December 29, 2012, 197 countries had ratified and joined the Montreal Protocol and decreased the amount of CFCs. The Kyoto Protocol was drafted in 1997 and it's international. It reduces greenhouse gas emissions. Its function is credits are given to countries or businesses that reduce CO2 emissions or that plant trees. These credits can be used to avoid reducing emission at a later time, or traded or sold to other countries or businesses. It is enforced by two branches of the United Nations, Facilitative Branch and Enforcement Branch. A party is determined to be non-compliant or can be suspended from market-based Kyoto mechanisms and increased amount of reduction for next period. President George W. Bush withdrew from the Kyoto Protocol in 2001, objecting to the agreement that developing countries were not subject to reduction of emissions because it would decrease their economic growth. But what you can see here is currently there are only 3 countries that are not part of the Kyoto Protocol. This country right here, and the United States, and one down in Africa. In the United States, we have the Endangered Species Act, like was talked about in CITES. This was drafted in 1974, amended in 78, 79, and 82. It's a national one, because it's an act. Its goal is to protect endangered species from extinction. Its function is that because these species are listed, many of them live on land not owned by the government. Incentives are given to the owners to help protect the land and animals. The issue is in animal endangerment and therefore their protection. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Association for Endangered Species, are in charge. The offenses with highest punishment are those for trafficking, killing, or harming an endangered species. Punishment may be 1 year in prison or a fine of up to $50,000. There is a listing status that describes a species' potential for being listed as endangered, threatened, or extinct. Endangered, threatened, candidate, and actually extinct also. The Safe Drinking Water Act, drafted in 1974 and amended. Its goal is to protect drinking water and public health. Function is the EPA sets standards to protect water resources from contamination. EPA and states have authority to enforce the standards set by this act. The EPA can issue administrative orders, take action deemed necessary in an emergency situation that put the public's health at risk. Act does not require any regulation on private water wells as they do not serve many individuals. Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, drafted in 1938, amended 51, 62, 90, 94, 1997, and 2007. It's a national act. It's to control and regulate safety of products. Maximum limits for pesticide residue on food to control safety. Toxicity and effects are considered when setting limits. Evidence of safety of product is required. The FDA regulates products and limits set by EPA. Unsafe products violating this act may result in seizure. This act replaced the earlier created Pure Food and Drug Act. Substances added to food are held to stricter code than those found naturally in the items. Thank you, and I hope this was helpful.